I got saved in December of 2005, and I was at rock bottom, and my life was hopeless, and it was dark and lonely, and crying out and asking God if he was real, to reveal himself to me. And then finally the Lord opened up my eyes to him, and it was in December of 2005. I heard a voice in my head that said, "I'm real," and then the picture of the Bible flashed before my eyes. And it happened 3 times. And I felt a presence that I hadn't known. And I fell down on my knees, and I felt the weight of my sin and the weight of darkness. And I just felt like this presence wanted to take all of that from me. God, I know you're real. I hear you. I understand. And I found out that I was pregnant for Jackson, I believe 2 days after that.
My life at that point was a total and utter disaster. Like, I had gotten a DUI, that was the only thing. Like, once I got the DUI, then I just started drinking a lot, and I would be like blackout drunk a lot.
But I'm so thankful that I found the Lord, because John wanted me to have an abortion, and I probably would have if I hadn't become a Christian. I prayed, and I just asked God to send me someone to tell me what to do. And I ran into this friend, and I sat down and I told him that I was pregnant, and he said, whatever you do, don't have an abortion. And I felt like that was like God's answer right then and there. And so I had solidified that that I was keeping this baby, and I kind of knew that God was, watching out for me and answering my prayers. And so I started praying and fasting for John.
Because at that point, my life just got progressively worse and worse and worse. And my friend group that I had all started to dissolve away, and I became more and more isolated and alone. And I really started to make my way towards the bottom of that pit,
Yeah, and I remember I went to just a local group of believers that would get together. We were all about the same age, and there was about 50 of us that would get together. And we interceded and we pleaded with the Lord to save John. And that night he went to O'Sullivan's.
That night was a pretty critical night.
Yeah.
It was a definite turning point. I went down to O's, and I would start to drink, and I sat down, and there's this couple that was outside, and they were having an argument of some sort. It was a guy and a girl arguing about something, and there was this other guy who was pseudo security for O'Sullivan's, and he went out there and he flashed his gun, and put it back away and says, "Get out of here." And then he comes over and he sits back down, and I was like, wow, man, that seemed unnecessary. And he pulls it out right to the side of the head, and he is completely hammered. He's waving around, and like that, the Lord took that moment and he slowed it all down. And he really showed me, where my life was heading. I had a gun to my head, and he showed me, look, this is your life right now, and it's leading to death and destruction. But here is what I have waiting for you, and it's life and hope and a family and love and children. And
you called me that night then, because you left.
Yep,
and
I
he
left
called me that
immediately.
night, and he told me
I'm
that
done drinking tonight.
Yeah, you hadn't even had a drink. He called me, and then he said, "You need to set up for me to talk to somebody. I've got to talk to somebody about this." So he met with Joe. Finally, at the end, Joe said, "Well, can I pray for you? It sounds like God's been speaking to you in some pretty, profound ways." And he was like, "Sure, pray for me." And so Joe prayed for him, and he said, "God, I just ask that you would continue to speak to John in these ways, showing him signs that you're real." And so John was bringing my van back to my house to me, and he was on the corner of Crescent and State, and Vessie's flower shop is over there. And on the sign, it said, a play on words, "Fall for Jesus."
Yep, because it was September.
And John said, "Okay."
Said okay.
And that was it. That's what led him to the Lord. And
it was a shift change right then. Everything went from being totally skewed to straight and made sense.
And we were married that following year in April. And I would say that just the watching the Lord doing something like that, like anything we've ever faced in our marriage, I know that God is bigger than. And we've went through trials, we've went through hurts, we've went through painful situations, but we're committed to each other and we're committed to the Lord. And the Lord has been so faithful to us in everything. And he always brings us out on the other side of things stronger, like that 3-bound cord, you know, that's wrapped around Jesus. And he has given us so much hope, and he's given us a really good life. Like, he's dealt very bountifully with 2 idiots. And we're thankful, so thankful.